Hello, my name is Flavin. Today I'm going to talk to you about this little village that's behind me here. Now, it's a diorama. It's a diorama of a typical English village. It has a church in it, for instance. It has a windmill. There's a market. There's lots of rather beautiful old houses, lots going on. And behind me, although you can't actually see it, there is a little length of track that represents a heritage railway and a station. I've made this to take alongside my fellow loco ladies to do as a demonstration at the National Whorley exhibition at the NEC in November 2022. The reason I wanted to do a diorama to take out was because my own layout, the Edgehare Strines Railway, fills a whole room in my house and is far too large to take anywhere. There is also going to be an article about this as well as my video, and it's going to be in the British Railway Modelling magazine. I'm looking forward to showing it to people, but I also wanted to animate it a bit more than just the windmill. So I have seen Magna Rail. I've only ever seen it on video, actually. I've never seen it myself, but I decided to use a Magna Rail track with the cyclists on. Now, these cyclists are tiny and their little legs go round, so they look as if they're actually moving. But I wanted to take it a stage further and incorporate other things. Those of you that know me know I like to include my family. So, for instance, I have a champion cyclist grandson. He appears on it. I have another grandson who's training to be a farmer at the moment. So he's there with a wheelbarrow. There's a photo here of some of the figures that I've used, including the Magna Rail ones. But that, for instance, is a man on a scooter. That one is a man on a motorbike. And the children wanted the god Thor. There's some dog walkers. And there's a lady walking some children. There are some other items as well. So I set about animating this and creating it in such a way that I could take it out. It's a cobbled market. Look, there's one of the cyclists, by the way. It's a cobbled market. So I've actually made a track where the cyclists actually bobble around a bit as if they're riding on cobbles. Anyway, this is how I made it. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll speak to you again at the end. I mentioned before that this is a diorama. So this photograph from up above it shows you what's in the village. But if you look closely, you'll see that everything is made so that it can be lifted off. And all that will be left when I go out to these exhibitions is the baseboard itself. And then I will put it all together when I get there. I'm going to start with a short tour of the Magna Rail village or Higher Edge village. On the right was the train track and the locomotive. That's a gatehouse with a clock. I'm running across in front past an ice cream van, and you can see there some of the market stalls, including a cheese and a plant one. And as we go round further, you'll be able to see the church, and in the background that was the windmill, and you can see some of the rather fine little buildings that are in this village, most of which I acquired second-hand over quite a long period of time. As we pan round again, you can see the market hall. That's a super quick building. Past some water features or water fountains, some other buildings. I used a piece of marine ply for the base of this village, and I reinforced it with wood underneath to stop it bending. When you buy the starter kit from Magna Rail, you get the white channeling that you can see there, which you then fix in place with screws that they provide. The blue pieces are the chain links. They come in different lengths and you attach them to each other with a clicking mechanism. And before you put them into the conduit or the channeling, you then need to add the magnets set in the positions for the various figurines that you're going to be using. The motor on the left-hand side pulls the chain link through. In order to get everything looking how I wanted it to, I effectively created a 3D puzzle, putting down the channeling and lining it up with the various arches and the shapes of the buildings that I wanted, and doing it in such a way that people sitting in front of it, viewing it at an exhibition as a diorama, would be able to see everything that I wanted them to look at. The channelling sits proud of the baseboard. So I used 7mm cork roll, which I cut to fit using a template and then stuck down using Copydex. This is what it looked like when it was finished, so that there was a nice even surface ready for me to put down the cobbled areas and also the track. Now the cobbles are made of wallpaper, and that wallpaper is just a sample that I got, which had a texture which I've painted the right colours in grey and buff titanium to look like real cobbles. I then used the surface for the track, and that was plastic sheeting that I bought to pretend that it was water that had a slightly rippled surface on it. I then painted the rippled surface grey, and the figures went round really well on it, but unfortunately they also started to take the surface off, which you can see there. I relaid the surface using super quick pavement, which I then varnished, and I also added some other bits of wallpaper, textured wallpaper that I had to make the paving stones round the edge. This short clip of the village shows some of the cyclists and the figures moving round on the newly laid track surface. I also challenged myself a bit further by making the fallow windmill in the far corner and putting a motor in it. I like to add detail so that it's a working windmill with somebody carrying a sack out to a lorry, and next to it there's a rather nice little village house or cottage that I added plants and fencing to make it a garden, and that sits on plastic so I can move it. The village has a heritage line running along next to it with steam trains on it. So I've added that as a separate thing, which I made originally from a block of insulating foam and cut it to fit. I've added a tunnel, I've added a locomotive, there's a little station. There are in fact even some photographers standing waiting to take a picture of the train. I decided not to animate the loco and the track because it would have looked a little bit odd just shunting backwards and forwards in a very short space. A prominent building in the village is the church, and I've made that as a separate little diorama, and then round it are the cyclists riding as a peloton through the village in a race. But I wanted to add an alternative, so I have this little blacksmith's forge that I can also swap into place just for a change with the peloton riding round that one as well. Some of the figures can be taken off and moved around, but the market I realised would be a bit of a problem, so I've made that as a separate little diorama, which you can see here. In position, it sits alongside the market hall and everything else that's going on in that village. It's then safer and easier to transport it like that. This last clip is the village taken from the side, where the train is pulling into the station. You can see the walkway and the steps down from the station into the village. There's the gatehouse with a clock on it. Peeping over the back there are some of the older buildings in the village. The market hall, the market, and behind there you can see the church, a row of little cottages with a snicket or an alleyway to it, and the windmill in the corner. I hope you enjoyed this. I did enjoy making this village. I found the Magna Rail a bit of a challenge, particularly as I don't have a lot of strength in my hands anymore, and I kept dropping things. But it worked, and I'm really, really, really pleased with it. And if any of you do get the chance to come and see us, come and find us at the NEC, and we will look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.